and welcome to another show of Don't Get This Twisted. I am Rob, along with my co-host, as always, Tina. How you doing, Tina?
Hanging in there, Rob. How you doing?
Oh, I sound like I'm Barry White today because I'm got a sore throat and I think I'm getting sick.
Say it isn't so. Say it isn't so. Fight the urge.
I think a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, his voice sounds even better. He should be sick all the time. This is my radio voice. Hey, hey there. Hi there.
It's like a radio station for some smooth
Thanks for calling
jazz.
Kiss FM. Smooth jazz. Speaking of that, I have a friend of mine at work. He wants to do voiceovers as he gets into his retirement years. He's in his 60s. And I was telling him that he needs to come over here to the old home studio and we can do some things for him. But then he goes, oh, dude, you should do a promo for this jazz station in London. So I just haven't got around to it. I actually have it right in front of me. Right now might be the best time to do it. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, look, make sure to check out our socials and share this show. We're on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I've been tweeting a lot lately. And you can hear us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio, everywhere you can hear podcasts. Make sure you go and favorite us or follow. What is it?
Do
follow. That's what it is on a lot of them. Yeah, just so they just automatically pop up so you can hear us. We had a pretty good month last month. Considering that it was December, it's pretty good.
Nice.
Today we're going to get a little bit more serious because we've been joking around and fucking off lately and just doing shows that we just want to do. Today we're going to talk about living with an addict because that came through our Facebook. My friend Catherine in Georgia gave us a plethora of things to cover, and this was one of them. And as soon as I told you, you were like, let's do that because I've been talking about it a lot lately.
Yes. I don't normally talk about how I felt in situations that I've gone through, although I talk about the situation that I went through. And it was brought to my attention that maybe it felt a little not insincere, but like I was dodging it, which led me to look at that. And I was definitely dodging it. Like nobody wants to go through a traumatic experience and then have to explain how it felt. So
makes sense.
But I believe that that's part of the healing process. And I think it might help other people that are going through things because this week it's been a week. I had somebody that I've been a part of their life for a long time. Their baby was taken away because she was actively using while she was pregnant. And I see how it affects, the family and stuff. And it's all new to them. And I don't have the same reactions because I've been through this so many times in my life. So it's been interesting for me to see like how all of it has affected my reaction to things and how I'm able to go into survival mode without even a blink of an eye. I mean, I've been doing this. My mom started with her drugs that I could recall about when I was about 3 years old. So she was suffering from depression or whatever they called it back then. I don't even know what it was, but all the doctors were giving all the women at the time Valium. So my mom would take her Valium and she'd trip for a while and pass out. And then, we had to, at 3 and 1, had to kind of take care of each other. And I believe that started a pattern between my brother and I, because I still to this day want to take care of him and do what I can to care for him. And, I'm the one that shows up. So yeah, it's like, I didn't realize how it affected me in so many ways. And then once I started thinking about it, I was like, fuck, I wonder what I would be like if I didn't have to go through all that. And it was a lot, like, because of the addicts in my family. One of my uncles borrowed my dad's car, or my mom's car at the time, and took it and got on the freeway, stole some drugs, and was being chased by drug dealers, crashed the car, people died. And then,
Wow.
so we're all here at the house, not knowing anything that happened. And the SWAT team shows up, and there's people with rifles on the roof of the neighbor's house. And, you know, they're screaming, "Come out with your hands up." And my dad's being arrested for murder. Like, literally that happened. I was maybe 7, 8 years old.
Good Lord.
And see your dad like take it out. We were watching like some Academy Award or some bullshit like that. It was, I don't know. It may have even been on like not satellite TV, on TV back in the day. Like it could have been like that one show that everybody wanted to watch. I can't remember, but it was something significant. And then hearing the banging on the door, and you know, we're sitting on the floor with our popcorn, and all these people with guns, you know, come rushing into the house and telling us to get down. Like that was like a very, very scary moment for me. And then they literally took my dad, and yeah, so I think about the things that my family's been going through lately, and how I don't have a reaction, and what it took to not have one. So like all the stories are coming up, all the things that have gone on, and the feeling of always having to be perfect for them to love you. Well, that was such a fucking hard thing to deal with. Like nobody's perfect, first of all. And nobody with a mouth like mine would ever be considered perfect. So that made me strive to be like the very best in whatever I could accomplish. But it also was, for me, kind of disheartening, because I was never going to be able to make everybody happy. I was never going to be able to make her happy. And then all these years later, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, well, fuck, she wasn't perfect either. Like she was right. The only reason she was giving me this shit was because she was high. Like, come on. So I'm going through a lot of like things that I've archived and trying to figure out what it feels like. And I never even thought about it before. Just never thought.
Well, you're unlocking something.
Oh yeah. Yep. But it's been, like my mom's been gone 11 years. And this is stuff from way before. Like I could go back to 3. Like, fuck, I wasted a whole life not dealing with shit that I didn't even, well, that's not true, because I didn't even know I should deal with it. I had no clue that it was going to pop up, that it was going to be a problem, that it was going to affect other things. I had no clue. But yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, I'm lucky because I've never really had to live in that kind of situation, really, with even anyone. An old wrestler friend of mine, he had some issues, but at the time I was, you know, my son he was maybe 1.5, maybe 2. So, you know, I was doing other things in life, and we tried. I mean, obviously no one wanted anyone to go down that road. It's not something that you wish on anyone, but, you know, didn't want help. So, and then he ended up dying, you know, in his living room. It was definitely a hard thing to stomach, you know, knowing that maybe you could have helped somebody. Maybe if you would have just, like we talked before we got on here, zigged instead of zagged. Yeah. You would have just did this or did that. It's funny though, because I think I get in a lot of trouble with a lot of my friends because I have a very high level of lack of empathy. Like I don't, when things happen, I'm like, nah, whatever. Or mostly like when stars die, I think it's like celebrities will die. I'm like, nah, I didn't know the fucking guy. Who cares? Mm-hmm. Like I feel bad
like
for
that too.
Yeah, people. I feel bad for people who know those people. But I have a very lack of empathy for a lot of things, and it gets me in a lot of trouble with people who are close to me because they're just like, how do you think that way? I'm like, it's just the way I think. It's the way I'm built. But I'm lucky because I've really never had to deal with that inside of four walls. When it's outside, it's much easier to just let it go. And if it blows in the wind, it'll blow down the street. Yeah. But when it's inside the four walls that you have to deal with daily, I couldn't even imagine the turmoil that goes through that kind of stuff.
Well, towards the end was probably the worst of the worst. And we all were literally afraid that she was going to burn the house down because she was so loaded and then wanted to smoke cigarettes in the garage all night. And she would lean over the washer and the dryer, just kind of propping herself up. And she'd light her cigarette and then drop it in between the washer and the dryer. Now, if you're around a dryer at all, you realize lint is going to be around there. Even like the slightest bit of lint could cause a huge fire.
Yep.
So, and I was married with my daughter at the time, and I was literally having them go home so I could stay up all night with her until my dad got up in the morning because he needed to sleep at some point with working and everything. So he would wake up in the morning, and then by that time she was in bed, and then I could go home and sleep a couple hours before I had to go to work. And this went on for a few years, like probably 3 years, I want to say 4 years. I'm guessing. God, I think about that, and I was so exhausted. I literally walked around like a zombie. I was so just trying to keep everything together, trying to keep her secret, trying to, and I guess that's the biggest thing, like keeping people's secrets. Unfreaking believable the depth you go to do that. And I think I talked about it before. If we were in a knockdown, drag out fight and somebody rang the doorbell, you better not come out of here until you fucking look right. And you better have a smile on your face. Like, we weren't allowed to feel anything. We had to shut it off and I guess deal with it at a different time, or I don't know. I never got that far. It was just shut it down. And so shutting down became something that I've gotten pretty good at. I don't know if it's good because it's bad to shut down, but
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure it's a two-way street. I'm sure any psychologist would tell you that it's not a good idea to shut down.
Right.
But at some point, what do you do? I mean, you can only do so much. Well, and mostly when it's something that's, once you're out of the house, it's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Living with it. Like, have you ever taken Valium?
No. Well, yes, I took one. I was laid out for probably about 18, 19 hours. It just kicked my ass.
So I took 15 milligrams of it for my getting my vasectomy.
Okay.
15 milligrams, which is nothing, right? I would have let him cut my leg off. I was so fucked up because I don't do anything, right? So maybe my my lack thereof ever taking drugs, probably made it worse. But I'm telling you, it makes you so goofy. I couldn't imagine, taking high doses of that. The wrestler friend, he was taking somas, which are muscle relaxers, and probably somewhere in the same. No, he was doing like 30 or 40 a day.
I would say my mom was too.
and people would just I've seen other people just pass out on my couch, like gone. And then wake up wondering, like, cause he had spilled a fucking shake on him. And he was like, well, who's messing with me? You, dude, you fucking passed out. So it was really weird. Like that kind of thing. I couldn't imagine, like, my parents. I couldn't imagine. I just couldn't. You had to be in a very, it must've been hazy there. Like everything was always under a cloud of mom.
Yeah. I didn't realize it at the time though. It was just, my focus was just stay safe. Like I told you that during that time I was molested repeatedly for 9 months, and I would put my brother in a closet and he would fall asleep waiting for me because we were playing hide and go seek, but he was so little, like he just, it's hide and go seek time, get in the closet, I'll be right back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would do whatever I had to do, and then I would go back in there and fall asleep with him. And at 3 years old, at 4 years old, like that's crazy. I think about that, like the survival instinct that I had to just get through that, and taking care of my brother at the time is insane. Like, to learn how to protect ourselves, because, he was messed up too. So if I got us out of plain sight before he came looking for us, he wouldn't look very hard because he was so fucked up himself. So yeah. And my brother and I had rooms that kind of adjoined through an accordion door, so I could like barely open it, sneak in, do what I had to do, and then get out of there. So I was thinking about like the safety that I felt. I didn't have any at the time. As a matter of fact, I like freaked out. I wanted my dad there every day, all the time, and he couldn't be there, and he was brokenhearted, and all this stuff was going on, and everybody was dealing with their part of it. And meanwhile, like, kids weren't being cared for. It wasn't, I mean, we were fed, we were bathed. She made sure she got all of that done. She had to be super mom in that she didn't want anybody judging her. So as long as she did everything she was supposed to do, nobody could. And then she could use. And we were well taken care of, but it was the safety. It was the like being in safe environments, having somebody who was there, because we kind of just ran amok.
Right.
At that age, and didn't have any guidance unless my dad was around. But at the time, he was such a mess that I wonder how much he mentally was even there too.
Yeah, like how did he deal? Like that must have been a whole other thing.
Yeah, I don't know. He actually went and stayed with his brother. And he was sleeping on the couch, and he was miserable and pissed off. And our house had gotten vandalized. Somebody came in and just messed it up. Like, they didn't steal, but they vandalized. And the dog got shot, and it was just a mess. And so my dad came to get us. And at that point, I guess they got back together. Which I kind of take as divine intervention, but he never really talked. He talked about what he had to do and that he loved my mom, but he never really talked about like how it felt, other than when he found out it was pretty fucked up. And that was all he said.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple of rooms in his head that are very locked.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and Vietnam did that, or working for the job that he worked for. I mean, there's 100 different reasons. He's definitely got things he doesn't want to share.
Mm-hmm. But it's so funny because such a different way they were raised. Our parents came from a whole other be strong attitude. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different way of being raised. So I'm sure he handled what was going on in the house, from a very different standpoint.
Oh yeah. He says that I'm kind of like his counselor because I come up with ways of looking at things that he never even thought he could. Like there was not an idea for him. And he always says, you have a funny way of looking at things, but I wish somebody would have told me it was safe to do that. And I think about that all the time. Like, what gave me the ability to do that, but not him? But I think it's because although he was going through his things, we were also surviving in our ways and making our own survival. We were we were developing our own survival skills, and that became mine, where his were different because of what it felt like, I guess.
Right.
But yeah,
I'm
it definitely made me want to be the one in charge. Like, that's why I don't go out drinking, because I want to make sure I get home. That's why I don't like do half the shit everybody else does. It's because somebody needs to make sure everybody's safe. That has become who I am, for sure.
Right. I mean, I definitely think that what you had to go through probably made you a tad bit more armory. Like, I'm sure you wear armor that you don't know you do, or other people call you out for it. Like, oh, you do this. And you probably never realize that it's probably a reactionary thing from when you were a lot younger.
Oh, yeah. And I do. People tell me stuff like that all the time. So I'm just like, yeah, I've heard that before. I don't know what to say anymore.
Right.
You know, I still have, everybody has to do what they've learned. Everybody has to, they have to use whatever tools they've been given to make sure they stay where they need to be safe, just like me. So I don't apologize for that anymore. I just know that I'm like that. But in a lot of other ways, I'm probably way easier than most people could ever be. So I just balance it out that way. I don't care anymore. I've had to apologize too long.
Do you think that growing up in the household that you did, that you find it easier to see that in other people? Like people that you think may be using or may have a bigger issue than you think, and then found out later that it was really bad?
You know, I've been having the discussion with one of my friends, because I believe that another somebody that I'm close to is with somebody who is supposed to be in recovery, and I called bullshit. You know, I didn't call bullshit to anybody, but I told one of my friends, I said, hey, this is happening. And she's like, no, I don't see it. And I'm like, yeah, but do you see the way the mouth moves? You know, I go, I'm telling you, it's happening. And she's like, no, it's not. And I'm waiting for it to come out, because I think it's worse than what anybody's going to think it is.
Mm-hmm. I think those are the things too that you find out, you know, when you live around somebody who's like that. And again, I'm going by what I've heard from other people who've been in very similar situations when you were, like, using daily, or when they're using and they didn't know, but you find out from things happening around the house, or, you know, they're watching their child and they're high and something happens, or like I said, they burn themselves, or this happens, where it's just odd because it ends up being multiple times that it happens. Like, look, we all have that one bad day where you're like, you cut your finger, you know, opening up a package, but when you do it 5 times in a week, people wonder, you know, you have to start wondering. I think for you, you know, look, if you've been around that, always good to hear from somebody who's been in that situation to say, hey, at least keep an eye out for that.
Oh, yeah. Because, you know, I tell people all the time, if you don't want to believe me, don't believe what I'm saying. Like, what does it feel like to you? Like, let's just think for a second, like, how are you feeling about that? Like, what do you know, I just told you that. What are you feeling? Like, go with your gut instinct. And if I'm completely off, cool. I am so okay to say, man, I'm going to buy you, and I'm going to buy you the first beer you drink tonight because I had you wrong. You know, I'm sorry. And I've been through it enough to know that I can do that. I'm okay I like being wrong in those situations. I'd never want to say something about somebody and it smear them. You know, that's not cool. But I'm not wrong. I'm just not wrong. So when I tell somebody that, and I'm like, look me in the eyes, I need you to hear me. Do you hear me? Okay, now what you do with the information, that is on you. But I I have to free myself from what you're going to go through next.
Yeah. And look, I think people don't want to hear, no one wants to hear that something bad is coming. No one does. I mean, it's just, whatever the situation, whether it's an addict or a cheater or whatever you're shooting across the bow, nobody wants that shit to come.
Right.
So denial's always the first thing. It's like,
and
there's
I'm
no
okay
way.
with that. Like, just blink twice if you heard me. Like, that's it. Because
Right.
my experience and what I've gone through has got to help somebody else, because I got to tell you, I don't know that it helped. I don't think it helped me. I think I would have been okay to not have any of this experience, because I'm good to walk around not knowing everything, really. So I hope it helps somebody else so that they could suffer just a little bit less, so that they could have just a little bit easier of time, or at least they know how bad it could get, because it could get really bad. Like, at the end of my mom's life, we just got her out of the hospital. We thought she was going to die. They were telling us to make her arrangements. She wasn't going to make it. That's what the doctors were telling us. And she somehow miraculously lives, gets out of the hospital, comes home, and the doctors tell her, no more medication. We've medicated you for the day. And that tray of pills opened up, and she took a whole week's worth in one swallow after she dug them out the bottom of her purse. Like, when you said your friend was doing about 40 somas, I have no doubt my mom was in that range. And the sad thing is we didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about it. We didn't tell anybody. We as a family chose to ignore, deny, not look at, not deal with, because she was such a fucking asshole when you called her out on her bullshit. And nobody, the boys or the men in my family, the boys, my brother and my dad, they did not ever cross that bitch. That bitch was insane, and they just didn't do that. But I did, because I was the one having to take care of everybody. I was like, come on, you got to give me a break. I can't keep doing this. And I can't keep your secrets anymore. Like, you're getting messy. She's getting so messy. Like,
well, somas will make you bad.
Messy.
Messy.
And then
like
Vicodin on top of it. And
oh, Jesus.
And then it went to Norco. And then it went to, gosh, she had so many different. And again, I feel the need to defend my mom and say, now, she had a brain aneurysm and she wasn't right after that. So it fucked her up, and she was not right. But there's still no excuse for it to get like it did. Like, I know people that have had traumatic brain injuries and they're not using anything anymore. So
right, but that was probably her addictive personality on top of what happened as well.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? When did you first realize? And I mean, like, what age where you were just like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, if you realize things when you were like super young, maybe you just realized, oh, things are off. But like, maybe as a teenager where you were just like, holy shit.
Yeah. Like about 15, 16, she was using again. Yeah, there was a lot of drugs going on in her there were a lot of drugs going on in her profession at the time, and they were readily available, and she wasn't one to say no to them. So I remember during that time going, okay, I got that unsafe feeling again. Now it just pops up whenever I'm unsafe. Like, literally, it's the same feeling. And I just know that she was tilting. She would do her thing, and that insecure feeling, that stuff that you're left with that I was left with as a kid, it's all popping up again. Like, I'm feeling the need to like isolate and grab my brother and get out of there, and not just my brother though. It was like, get all the kids. It was, get everybody together. Let's get out of here because shit's gonna hit the fan. And I remember that distinctly coming back up now that you say that.
So did you go into? So you just went into like battle mode?
Yeah.
So when you saw things arise, you just went, okay, I have to do shit like this.
Grab the
and
kids,
then as
get out of there.
and then as it slid down where maybe she wasn't using as much, did you just kind of level out, or did you always keep that armor kind of high?
No, once about 15, 16, I remember when it came, it never went down. It just transferred to all my friends. Like then it was, who was the one that drove and took everybody there and back? It was me.
Mm-hmm.
You never saw me drink. That's not what not if I was going to be out and about, not if I was in charge of anything. So,
right.
And rarely did I drop that ball. Like I stayed pretty consistent on, I need to keep everybody safe for the rest of my life. I do it now. Right.
I mean, that makes sense though. I think that's a, whatever your reactionary thing is to life or to things that are, it's a traumatic experience. So it's a traumatic result. Yeah. You just kind of go, oh, this is what I need to do now. So
yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Even going out with somebody, I drive. Like I don't trust that they'll get me back. I don't want to just have to stop off somewhere that we didn't have planned. I want to be able to come home when I want to come home. Mm-hmm. I'm very much like that. And yeah, I have a hard time letting somebody else drive, somebody else be in control like that.
That's me. I'm very much like that. I hate other people driving.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, when I went to visit my friend in North Carolina, I drove the whole time I was there. I was like, give me the keys to your car. It's something that, and it's not even, I'm not a control freak. It just that, like most anything else, like, you know, most people don't like that are like that are control freaks. Don't like, they have issues getting on an airplane.
Yeah.
Because they understand that, I have no control over this and I got to trust the pilot, blah, blah, blah. I can get on an airplane and be like, whatever. Because once I'm in the air, you're dead anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Well, that's not the problem. It's when you have to sit in the fucking tarmac for 9 hours. And I had to do that. Yeah. And then they don't serve you drinks or food. And you can't bring anything in because you can't go through security with it. Right. I was like, yeah, no, I have a problem with that for sure.
But for me, driving, I think that it's me because I have that level of control of, okay, I know I'm driving. So I don't know. I think that has a lot to do with my dad because he worked for Caltrans. So he told me a bazillion stories of accidents and crazy shit. But I can understand where, you know, obviously where things kind of went sideways for you because when it's your parent, I couldn't imagine having to get up every single day and wondering which parent was going to be there. Like that had to be a very wild roller coaster ride for you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's like one day she could be somewhat sober or completely, and you have, I guess what you think is, you know, mom, you know, from childhood or certain things, or you could have sober but pissy because wants to be high. Mm-hmm. Or you could have high. So you have, it's like, you know,
I never
very
thought
Jekyll
about
and
that,
Hyde-ish.
but we did have that. Like some days
it was Jekyll and Hyde, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't imagine because
which makes it even more valid of a point that you just made, because I was just going to say, but then she could do it for people. Like she could turn it on and turn it off. So like it was perfection. It was a smooth glide. There was no like, yeah, she did that a lot.
But that was her hiding mechanism. So she was good at wearing a mask or going, okay, I have to have my shit together or try to have my shit together. It's no different because I know people who've been, in relationships with alcoholics, where it's very much the same, where you don't know what you're getting when you get home. You know, you might have angry drunk where you're afraid for your life, or, you know, the kids can't do this because you don't want them to set it off. So you end up sending your kids away and he just sits in the living room and watches TV and gets drunk. And that's a daily thing. This isn't like every blue moon. These are people who have to drink every single day or you know, they end up going to the garage and drinking by themselves because they can't be around the rest of the people who are in the household.
Yeah.
It's got to be a fight on your own mental state to walk through your bedroom door every day and wonder who's on the other side. I couldn't imagine that.
I literally used to just play like I was asleep. And I would wait until I didn't hear anybody in the back bathroom. And I would run as fast as I could into the back bathroom and shut the door and turn on the shower and pretend like I was getting ready. So I had a little bit of time to wake up before it started. Yeah. Wow. I never thought this stuff. You're saying things and I'm like, a lot is coming up this week. I don't know why that is.
Well, it's like walking through a minefield. It had to be.
Yes.
I mean, I couldn't imagine, an easy task like, hey, I want to go get something to eat in the kitchen before school and having to time it to where maybe you didn't have to see anyone or hurrying or, whatever that feeling is to just do a minimal daily task. I couldn't imagine. I'm telling you, I knock on wood, that I grew up in a, normal household and however you want to say that. My dad drank beers daily, but I don't think I can tell you when he was under the influence more than, and knowing how people are drunk now. Mm-hmm. Like I can't tell you that. And he did, and I know he did because he told me stories about him and my uncle going down to what was that place over there on the corner of
Joe's Bar,
Mission and Sepulveda, Sutter's Mill.
Sutter's Mill.
So the Sutter's Mill, which is now I think a Nissan dealership. I guess my dad and my uncle used to go down there and like tear them off, like and drive home drunk because you could then. Like no one DUIs weren't such a big deal. And, and I'm sure now looking back on it, he probably is very glad he made it home and didn't kill anyone.
Yeah.
Because in those days you got pulled over and the cop would be like, where you live at? And I'll get your ass home. Like just go home. But I never saw him what I would consider, drunk. So, I'm lucky. I knock on whatever wood or whatever.
You've never seen your dad drunk?
I have, but it was like later, like my wedding reception where he didn't have to drive home because my stepmom did. He got hammered. Yeah. But I not during my childhood where I thought I would have to worry about anything like that. This was much later in my life and very much under a controlled environment, like very controlled environment. On my
30th, it was either my 30th or my brother's 21st, but because of the pictures and what I was wearing, I want to say it was my 30th. My mom got so drunk, and this was before midnight, that my dad was holding her up. She was sitting against the wall, and my dad was holding her up by having his hand on her chest so she didn't topple over. And she literally threw up all over my dad's arm in front of all of my friends. Yeah, that was a good time. I mean, Yikes. We were old enough that everybody was like, "Oh, look at your mama, that's funny," but it was embarrassing. I'm not going to lie. Right. It wasn't like, that's not how you want your mom to represent herself in front of every people you work with, the people that you grew up with, just everything. It was embarrassing. I wasn't happy about that.
I'm sure. Like I said, this is the one time that and hammered for my dad was probably really buzzing. Like he wasn't like stumbling around.
Right.
But he was definitely like, even my best friend walked up to me during the reception. He was like, "Damn, dude, your dad's pretty hammered." So I thought it was kind of, and it was funny because my stepmom, who's much younger than my dad, I'm sure had that under control. Like,
oh yeah,
because she's a whisperer. Like she would be like, we've had enough now. And my dad would be like, all right. And he was like one of those where he didn't, I've never seen him like ever get angry with her. So I'm sure she probably cut him off and he was like, nah, I got a good buzz and like, I'm good. But your case is a whole other thing. And I think, you know, for people that are going through this right now, and like you said, you know, someone who they got their baby taken away, you know, I don't understand it because I don't have that addictive personality. At least when it comes to that, my addictive personality is probably food or candy, like something like that, where if it's there, I'll eat it. So I'm, you know, but I don't have that because I've never done any drugs. So for me, it's, I don't have that. And
just
right. No, I'm much too old. Maybe on my deathbed. You know, I was telling some people one time that if I was ever going to do anything crazy like mushrooms or acid, I'd just do it on my deathbed. I told my kid that if they like give me like your dad has under a week to live, I told him to dose me every day.
There you go.
Because like, who cares? You're gonna die anyway. So why not see all kinds of crazy magical creatures and shit in your room?
Die anyway.
Yeah, I mean, once they give you that, like, you got 7 days left. It's like, who cares? Dose me full of LSD or mushrooms every day. Because what's the worst that can happen? I'm gonna die.
Right.
But maybe that's the control freak in me as well. That's why I've never done any drugs, because I don't want to be out of control. I hate that feeling. Hate being out of control.
Yeah.
So
I get that.
But to see my friends, and I've seen several, you know, the wrestling business is, what's a good way of putting this without shitting on all my old colleagues? A wrestling show's like a pharmacy.
I get it.
If you walk into a locker room and say, I need a pain reliever, and I don't know about now, at least when I was doing it, somebody had something.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's the same thing. That's the same thing. I had a headache at work. Hey, teen, I got this. I got that. I got a couple of these. Oh, wait, is your back hurting you too? And I'm like, oh my God, you guys, like, and that's, you know, clients, that's friends, that's coworkers, that's, you know what I mean? It's everybody wants to help. And I think that's the part that we're getting wrong. Like, we're not helping, you know, we're not, it may take away somebody's pain today, but they're going to have lasting pain that's never going to get better unless they, you know, seriously detox their body because they've gotten out of control. Like, it's not helping. You know what I mean?
No. And I think that, look, I mean, everything can be addictive at some point. Whether it's a drug or alcohol or something that takes over your life, like the gym can be addictive. Now, is it a good addictive? Probably on some point, but the mental addiction might not be. So, letting it take over your life to where you don't see your friends and family because you have to do this, or steroids, a good example. I'm never big enough. That's how people think, right? And you could be this jacked out freak, but in your own head, you're never big enough. So that's, you know, that's an addiction, whether it's a mental addiction or a drug addiction. And in that case, it's both, because you got to take one to make your mental go away, or the addiction, which is more of a mental state, but people who don't eat, you know, these are things that are addictions, but they're either a mental or a substance abuse. So there's lots of things that can be addictive and can take their tolls on the people around you. So my thing is always get help. I mean, there's so many ways to get help now. I mean, they're phone calls away. Literally, they're phone calls away. I have a friend of mine who is a wrestler who was a serious addict, serious, got clean, and is now went to college and now is a person who helps people with their addictions.
I know someone as well.
Yeah, there's ways of taking these turmoils and bad things in your life and trying to turn them into something else.
Yeah. And
in your case, you have.
Yeah. And I'm not telling this story because I need pity or because I feel like I was a victim. I don't. I hope that that's not what people get out of this. I hope that what they get is if they're going through it, if they're experiencing something, that they see that this isn't something that is exclusive to them. Like everybody knows somebody, everybody has to deal with somebody. Not everybody has to live with somebody that's got an addictive situation going on. But if anything, know that what you're going through, what you've experienced is very real to you, and try to work with that and not in a way that's not going to be beneficial, but really try to learn from it. Try to do what you need to do to move past it. And I mean, I feel like I've done that, but see, I'm feeling like it keeps coming back. So maybe there was more to learn. Maybe there was something more I needed to say. Maybe there was more of a reason that I went through this other than to make me who I am. Maybe it was to help somebody else. So I'm noticing that this is coming up because it's in my life. Like I'm hearing other people talk about it, which is making me think differently. But as I'm talking, I'm realizing, wow, that was a lot. And that wasn't the easiest thing I ever went through. And that did change who I am as a person. So I'm having my own realizations while I want to put out the story and say, this is very real and you'll get through it too.
Yeah. And I think you have obviously at least attained some kind of getting over it. You're never ever going to just pass that by. It's just, that's not how we work as people.
Yeah.
And that goes along with any other kinds of things that happen in life.
Well, and that's what I thought. I was past it too. And now all of this is coming up again. And I'm like, oh, I guess not. Okay. Let's do it again.
I don't think you'll ever be past it. It's just going to be one of those things that you live with. Yeah. It's like getting a metal plate and screws put in your elbow. My kid has that. He'll always have that in his elbow, and he'll always have to think about what happened for him to get to that. But it doesn't affect him every day, but it's going to affect him as he grows up. Yeah. Someone's going to say, "Hey, what's that scar on your arm?" Or "What is this?" Or "Oh, my elbow hurts today because it's cold outside." "Oh yeah, it's because I got jumped at school and this is what happened." So there's always those things that I think in your case are always going to remind you. I think more seeing other people affected by what's going on. So yeah, I think that's what you're going to do as you go forward, is you're always going to be able to tell someone, "This is what I saw growing up. Do you see this?" And then giving them the information to decide what they want to do with it.
And also, I really have said this over and over again, is like, pay attention to what your gut is saying. Don't listen to your heart. Don't listen to your brain. Like, what's your gut telling you? Is your gut telling you something's off? Because if that's happening, that's your instincts telling you it's not a safe situation and do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In that case, I'm in a lot of trouble because I think with my heart. It gets me in a fuck ton of trouble.
Well, I always listen to my gut feeling. I don't always go with it. And, everybody likes a train wreck once in a while. So you just got to do what you got to do.
In my case, my gut goes, "Hey," and my heart goes, "Shut your fucking mouth. Go sit down." And then I just go with my heart. And I'm sure that on one of these shows that's coming up, we'll probably go into that, because there's definitely some things on our list. And I'm proud of myself, Tina. We have a list of shows to do all through January and what looks like most of February.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm going to pat myself on the back, and I'm pretty happy about that, because I think that we definitely need to do that because we're doing good.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think the more, look, I learned more about the situations that you went on with being on this podcast, things I didn't know.
I don't talk about this stuff. No.
And we've known each other a long fucking time, and I still didn't know about the things that happened in your life. So,
and I feel like I didn't tell you anything.
Well, no, because look, circumstances that happen maybe aren't the things that are going to help people. I think it's knowing that they can get past it and be okay and still maybe help the person that's going through it.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to lose that friend. I'll tell you, I didn't. And when I learned that I lost my friend, unfortunately, we knew it was coming. Like, it wasn't a shock. And that hurt, I think, worse.
I get
it hurt worse when someone was like,
same thing with my mom.
Yeah, they were like, I got a phone call from someone that was in the circle of people who knew him that were all using. And I had to get a call. I was at home for lunch and I got a call and was like, oh yeah, he's dead. Like, oh, wow. And again, I looked over at my wife at the time and was like, yeah, I wasn't shocked, but it didn't make the hurt any less. I was like, oh, fuck. Like,
you know what I came to realize from having to deal with that is with my mom, like, to try to make sense with it so you could live with it, because there's so many emotions that went through my head. But the one thing that I thought is she doesn't have to be in her hell anymore. You know, that whatever made her make those decisions, whatever made her want to use all the stuff that she ran from, she didn't have to run anymore.
True. And that's probably the same as my friend. I mean, he obviously had some other issues that plagued his life before he ever started using, because when I met him, he didn't.
Wow.
But he did have some things that happened that I think made it easier for him to go down that road. Mm-hmm. Whatever that is. And I think that's a personal thing that makes you go down that. It's no different than like you see people who get depressed and they eat. Mm-hmm. It's a coping mechanism, right?
Yes.
And I'm good at it. When I'm not doing well, I have no problem. I will eat myself into oblivion. Thankfully not, to death, but I definitely have no problem looking at my head and going, oh man, I'm doing really good. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Something kind of hits me down that road and I'm like, fuck it. I'll just order pizza. Even though I've been doing really good and exercising and doing all the things I'm supposed to do, I think that not feeling well will lead you down a direction. So depression's a fucking horrible thing. And coping mechanisms are alcohol, drugs, food, all things that are not good for you and can kill you. So it's finding a level place with those people and saying, look, mostly drug addicts, where yes, alcohol can kill you, but unless you're doing it daily, I think I understand people partying on the weekend and whatever that is. But when you're taking a drug every single day to cope with whatever it is you're going through, you have to find a way to push these people to a direction of, hey, do you want to be better? Because unless they want to be better, it's never going to happen.
Never.
You can push them as hard as you want.
And it's not that they don't want
care.
it. I think they do want to be better. They do want, but their want and their drive are going to be different. They're not going to want to work to be different. They may want it because they think everybody else wants that for them. But if they're not going to drive,
because their rock bottom and your rock bottom are two different things.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, for some people, their rock bottom is death.
Yeah. And I always tell people, I get your want to make them better. On want alone, we should have been able to sober the whole country on want alone. Like, I really wanted
it's very true.
my mom to be my mom and not the crazy woman that I was dealing with. And I always say want isn't going to fix this. So no matter what you want, know that that's just putting it out to the universe, what you would like to see happen. But in reality, the person doing what they're doing has a very different agenda.
Yeah.
So, yeah. On that, we should get on to this.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I agree. And I think that, look, I hope people get something from this, at least understand that you can be in the situation, at least from the outside looking in, and be okay in the end. That you can live through what is probably turmoil and pain and a lot of horrible things and still get on the other side clean.
Yeah.
And take your knowledge and try to help people as much as you can. I think that in your case, that's what you're doing, which is a positive.
Yeah. Well, I didn't go through it for nothing. So somebody's got to benefit from it because I sure as hell didn't.
I hope so. And look, it's okay to chat with your friends about these things and when you're ready, at least. Like I said, I never knew. And up until a year ago, where when you start talking about it on a show that everyone's going to hear, it's kind of it's very eye-opening that you know, look, we've known each other 30 something years.
A long time. And
I had
36.
no idea. And I was around your mom, which is a whole other
I told you
thing.
we're really good at hiding a lot of shit.
Yeah. So, you know, I think take this knowledge to the bank and try to help the people that are out there as much as you can. And yeah. Any last words there, miss?
No, but I'm happy that we just finished our first podcast of the new year.
Yes, 2023 is going to be a fun year. We have lots to talk about and lots of things to do. Make sure you're sharing this with your friends. We want to have everyone here and acknowledge our show coming to our social medias. Leave messages on what you would like to hear us talk about and or want to come on the show, because we haven't done an interview in quite a while. I think it's time. And on the flip side, this is an opinion show, so don't get it twisted. Keep coming back, listening. Check out all our socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can hear us on Amazon, Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can hear podcasts. And until next week, for my co-host Tina, I am Rob. We will see you then. See you later, teen.
See ya.